There you
Jeremy Clements. Ford Mustang GT4.
Dominant fashion, Kylie Glenn.
Yeah! Area 51 podcast. This is Cap Houston right here. Bobby, what you got for me?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is episode 57 of the Area 51 Racing Podcast. We've got Rob, we've got Dave. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing good, Bobby. How are you, man?
Doing good?
Doing good, Bobby. Good to be on two consecutive podcasts with you guys finally.
Yeah.
After my hiatus for what was that, like a month.
Well, we're glad to have you back. So tonight we have a very special guest. We've got Case. How you doing today?
I'm all right. How are you guys?
Doing good.
So how was it to have a week where you got to sleep in your bed every night?
It was pretty good. Still busy because we always stay busy at the shop and then family and sports but it was pretty nice not to have to travel for 2 straight weekends.
Now, do you guys travel this weekend, just going up to Nashville, or?
Yeah, so it's one of those races where it's a little bit closer. So we'll actually drive in the team van because there's no point in spending a ton of money on plane tickets and you just drive on up. So we'll leave Thursday and we'll be back early Sunday morning or so.
So, Case, here I got a question for you. So, can you tell us about yourself and how you got involved in racing?
Yeah. So I grew up in Powdersville, South Carolina, which is like just at the tip of Anderson. Uh, and my parents took me to Greenville Pickens and Anderson Speedway growing up every Friday and Saturday night from when I was born to when I graduated high school. Uh, just really fell in love with racing and race cars and watched it on TV. And it's all I ever wanted to do and dream. And, as a kid, I just idolized racing and all that stuff. And then wanted to start making my career path go that way. So went to NASCAR Tech in Mooresville straight out of high school. Like I only had a month off before I started college, and then worked my way up, found a late model team, and just kind of started sweeping the floors. And that was kind of it from there, and just kept working my way up. But it's all I've ever wanted to do, and I've found a way to do it, and I found really good woman to let me do it. And I got a kid that supports it too, and it's all worked out so far.
So at the NASCAR Tech, did you take like an engineering class, or was it just a broad like get involved in how to work on cars like NASCAR race cars, like the dynamics of the race cars and that type of stuff?
So NASCAR Tech's under the Universal Technical Institute banner, and it was more driven on normal car stuff. So they give you an actual education on how to be a mechanic, how to diagnose those type vehicles, and then there's specialty classes that you could add on. One of them being NASCAR, which had 6 or 7 classes that were driven at it, and they gave you the very basics, like some very basic fabrication stuff, some very basic engine stuff, and you have to sign up for those classes, and that's what I ended up doing. So I took those, and then still you don't get a technical degree from there or anything, but you get more of certificates, and it leads you into, like, let's say you wanted to go through and you just want to work on normal cars. It will lead you in a path to go get ASE certified and all that good stuff. So you could do it, but I was geared more towards the NASCAR side, so I took everything and learn from there. And they will help you look for teams that need volunteers and stuff, and it just puts people in the right direction, I guess, especially if they come from across the country to come over here and do this.
So basically after the school, then it was basically on the job learning that where you learned how to like set up a race car and that type of stuff. I'm assuming then.
Yeah, so the first team I worked for was called Race 101, and they also did like a school type program where you paid a certain amount of money and you come down, and it was Tony Blanchard and his associates, and they would teach you some basic stuff on working on race cars and how to maintain your own race car. And then they also had a marketing side from Adam Ross, and he would teach the people how to market themselves. So at that time, I still wanted to be a driver. I thought I could still do it. Da 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 da. My bank account's this big, never going to happen, right? So I started volunteering there, and eventually got to the point to where I was working at a Meineke, and I got let go because they had budget cuts. And my boss, Tony Blanchard, called me and said, "Why don't you just come work here?" He's like, "Don't worry about your tuition of going through the school anymore. Just come work here and we'll get you in a race, or you can drive race cars and teach you." He pretty much taught me the base of everything I know and how I work on cars now.
So you did drive a race car at one time then?
Yeah, I've driven some street stock stuff. I've made one or two late model starts. I tested a super truck at Hickory, but nothing traveling or doing anything substantial. Like the street stock stuff was when I was in high school. I had an old Monte Carlo that my mom bought. We gutted it, turned it into a race car, brought it up to Hickory when I moved, ran a couple races there. And now that car is in Michigan, and it has 2 or 3 track championships. Because I just traded with a guy to get another car, which I ended up selling. But now that car is living its best life up there.
Nice. Now, UNOH, that's out of Lima, isn't it?
Yes.
That's what I thought. That's only an hour and a half from me.
Really? That's where my car chief, Gabe, went.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what other criteria, just for the people watching? So you went to college, kind of got the basics, then sweeping floors, which you always hear or learn about. Oh yeah, I started by sweeping the floors over at such and such, and but what are some of your stepping stones to get to? Xfinity is one step away from the best of the best that America has to offer. Can you tell kind of our audience, all right, went from late models to this, that, and how you got in a position to be
Sure.
at a team in Xfinity?
So, like I said, started out with Race 101. We were running past super late models, traveled around the Southeast, went to Southern National, Hickory, Caraway. We ran some CRA stuff in the Midwest. And then that team had Carl Weber driving for them, and they wanted to go ARCA racing. So we went out and bought an old RCR show car, turned it into a 105 chassis short track car, and we went and took Carl to Madison, Wisconsin. He fell in love with driving ARCA. So we actually turned ourselves into an ARCA team. Did that for 2 years, became the car chief because I was with Tony the whole time. And it just got to a point where that team was starting to kind of disband and do some other things. And I kind of thought my life was going in a different direction. So I took a year off of racing. And my wife would say that's probably the worst year of her life, as she gives me a thumbs up from over there. But and then one day, a friend of mine named Eric Hill was working for Wintron, another ARCA team in 2017. And he said, "Hey, AM Racing needs a tire guy." And I was like, "You know what? Let's do it." So I went down and I interviewed with Bill Henderson, which is one of my favorite crew chief mentors I've ever had, which now he's an instructor at NTI of all things. And went and did tires for Austin Wayne Self for a year, and that was pretty fun. Learned everything I could from Bill. We also had Ross Chastain drive the truck once or twice. After that, that team merged with Nice, and when they merged, the employees kind of went away from AM Racing, so I was out of the job again. And Next Gen Motorsports was a K&N team, which is pretty much now ARCA at this point. And I had talked to the crew chief there, and they needed a crew chief for the second car, and he was like, "I think you're smart enough to do it, so come on, let's do it." I did that for 5 or 6 races, and then got a call from a buddy of mine named Terry Elmore, who was crew chief in JP Motorsports, and he's like, I need a car chief. And I was like, sure, why not? So I went Xfinity racing with him, did that for a year, and then that team kind of the same deal. Low budget teams, eventually they go away, right? And they were going away, and then our whole team essentially went to Opelika for 4 cup races. So I've done 4 cup races with Tanner Berryhill and David Starr. Dan Stillman was a crew chief, learned a lot from him. That was some of the most fun racing I've done because there was no pressure because we were just going to race. Like, we didn't care if we really, like, obviously we wanted to make the show, but we just didn't care. Like, we were just going. We knew we were underfunded. We knew we were down on horsepower, but it was pretty cool outrunning like Ty Dillon and some of the boys with what we had. And then after Opelika went away, kind of really didn't have nothing. And I got a phone call from Morgan Shepherd. And he was like, hey, I need somebody to work on my race car, make races, whatever. So 2019, I did all of Morgan Shepherd's stuff for the whole year. And it was the start and park era or whatever. And Landon Castle was our driver for a little bit. And we just got to play and have fun, experiment with setups, experiment with casters and cambers and all that stuff. And I learned a ton of me and Landon just trying stuff, which a lot of that I carry into cars I set up today. Did that, and then Morgan's deal shut down again. You can kind of see a trend here. And then I get a phone call from no other than Mark Setzer. I'm sure you guys have heard that name a lot.
All right.
He was at Johnny Davis's, and he said, hey, Johnny needs a car chief for the 4-car. I was like, all right, cool. Went down, talked to Brian Berry. Brian Berry is probably one of the most awesome people I've ever met. Super nice. And we talked. I went down there to go car chief, and then the crew chief left 2 weeks of me being there. And they were like, do you just want to do it? I was like, sure, why not? So then that led me into crew chiefing for Johnny's deal for 4.5 years. And Johnny's deal shut down. Went to Alpha Prime, did my half a year there with Tommy Joe, working with Brad Perez, Garrett Smithley, Maggio, all these people. And I knew that one wasn't going to last. And then was talking to Mark Setzer again at the end of last year. And he said, hey, come car chief for me. I was like, sure, let's go have some fun. And then 2 weeks into that one, Mark leaves. And here we are with old Jeremy Clemens.
So now, when you got into the business, you kind of knew that it was going to be a learning curve. So you got to come in with, all right, I've just got to do what I've got to do. And then it sounds like once you're in the business and you kind of grow roots, that when people know your name and reputation, you just get phone calls that just like you said, you had went through a couple teams and you can kind of feel them out once you got there. But would you say once you get into the series, it's easier to kind of root up than actually getting in?
Yes, because it's all about who you know. And if you're a new person coming in, it's really hard to make your way in. But like you were saying, once you get in and people see you, because every time you go to the track, I tell the younger kids whenever they come in, every time you go to the track, you're on an interview. No matter whether it's this team owner, this driver, this mechanic, NASCAR, whoever, you're always on an interview. And once you're there and you network with everybody, you meet tons of people every weekend, whether you know them or don't know them or whatever. So like you're saying, once you're in, it's easier to move around or find other opportunities because people know who you are and they trust you, because everything about this industry is you have to be trustworthy and you have to stand behind your work, because if you are somebody that constantly makes mistakes, you're not going to get picked or called or whatever, because if you make a mistake now, it costs $200,000, So that's why it's harder for newer people to come in. But places like Johnny Davis's and the JPs and the Morgans and all them are so valuable because they do bring younger people in and train them up and become a stepping stone.
So what I was going to follow up with Mark Setzer, obviously we know Mark really well, great guy, Jeremy's crew chief last year. Unfortunately, he went to the enemy's team in the 27 team, but still wish him good luck. But either way, do you think when Mark asked you to come be his car chief with Jeremy, do you think Mark at the time had the idea that he may be leaving and that he knew that you would be a good fit to take his spot and that the team would be in good hands? Or did he not, or was that something that just sort of happened? Like,
So I think
maybe you don't know, and maybe you can't share that information. I was just curious if that's how that went.
I think it's something that kind of just happened, per se, because Mark and I have been very close for a long time. The joke in the garage is he's my father, and every time he sees my daughter, he comes running by and says, "Oh, your deadbeat dad never brings you to come see me." So one of those type relationships, and I think it all happened very quickly, and it probably made his decision a little bit easier, per se, knowing that he would leave Jeremy in good hands, or however you want to say it, and he didn't feel like he was hurting the operation or Jeremy or the family or anybody in any way, because he knew that I was there for a reason, to help, right? And I've been doing this for years or whatever. But like I was saying, I don't think he did it. He knew when he was talking to me. I don't think he would have went through so much to bring me down there if he knew he was going to turn right around and leave, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just curious if maybe that was, I mean, it makes sense. It's like you said, it's a big trust thing, and trust is, like you said, everything in this sport. And Mark being experienced crew chief, much like yourself, and he cares for the Clements family, that he wanted to make sure that they were being taken care of and not, being left out to dry. I mean, it was like in the middle of December, I think, if I remember, looking at the.
Oh, he gone.
Where'd he go? All right, Dave, we'll let you go.
Right. Well, my next question was going to be, of course, with Jeremy and Mark starting the collaboration last year, with a big, funding, company with RCR, that had to be a huge stepping stone for you, to help. What's your, feelings, or what does RCR bring to Jeremy Clements as a smaller team?
So are you talking about like the GM stuff that
Correct.
yeah, so it's
So like engines, the aero, some of the setups. Obviously, you guys don't go in there. You're not gonna get the same stuff Austin Hill gets. Just that information cost, I'm guessing, a shit ton of money. But to get the help that was not given in the past, and now this year getting it all year, does it just make your life easier?
It does. So the GM thing is actually its own entity. It, like, RCR gets the same thing, per se. So what it is, if I could, it's kind of hard to explain. So what we pay for, whatever it is it's almost a service. So they have this tech center up in Concord. It's right beside Hendrick. They have simulators inside of it. They have a Hawkeye inside of it. They have other rigs that help scan cars to put them in the sim. It's not necessarily you get setups from them, but when you go to the sim, you go drive your car. If it's been scanned, like if the chassis has been scanned with no parts on it, and if all your parts have been scanned, it's like you're driving your car in the sim. So it gives you an opportunity to try other setups instead of, because right now we only have 25 minutes every weekend. So you can't change springs, you can't change a camber. And if you're off, you're off. It's pretty much how it is. So that part of it is the sim is so valuable that you can go essentially practice. And we go normally about once a week, once every other week. And we get all that. So we took a car in the off season and we got it KNC rigged, which is essentially a fancy pressure test on the chassis, like it's a fully done car. And they pressure test it and they take all them readings, they put into the sim. And then also, like I was saying, we've taken spindles, control arms, rear end housings, truck arms, all that scanned and inside of a database. So when you go to the sim and I go, hey, let's try this truck arm instead of this one, it's the sim knows which one's going on there. So it's not just guessing. So it's a lot more advanced than like a video game. And then along the lines of that, the Hawkeye is the same thing we roll through tech with at NASCAR. We have the availability of it at any time, as long as, there's not a car on it. Like prime example, tomorrow, our car goes there and it's going to get scanned. Gabe's going to go up there with the car. If the scan shows we're a little off or we can push the limit here a little bit, you got all the time in the world to work on it. So that's another part of the GM thing that's so valuable. And I think where we have gotten better this year, body-wise, is because we're not just shooting in the dark when we go to the track. And if you go to the track and you pass the first time, you can't work on your body. You're done. So the GM gives you a chance to work on it because the guys there are like, yeah, sure, work on it. They've got tools there for you, all that stuff. Now that's separate than our engine deal. So our engine deal is through Hendrick, and that's its own thing. Now having that full time this year is amazing because all the motors, we go pick them up ourselves. We dyno at Hendrick. So when we take it to GM, we also go to Hendrick because they're right beside each other. But just knowing.
So Dad doesn't get to play with them at all?
No.
No.
No, not this year. He's there all the time at the track. He's kind of like our little built-in engine tuner, but Hendrick comes over and fires the motors for us and all that good stuff. But just knowing that we have those engines, they're a little bit better. Like I'm not going to say how much, but they're just a little bit better. And just knowing we're on the same playing field as the 7, the 1, those guys is astronomical, really, because it's the first time I think Jeremy's ever done a leased motor all year. I mean, I think it's pretty cool, and it's like, I guess roundabout way, I kind of got off on a tangent there, roundabout way from what I've raced years past, coming to here and having the support from GM and also having a full lease engine deal and the availability of Hendrick Motorsports and their help has been a huge ton of help.
So talking about the sim, I know I obviously listen to the scanner every race when it's available. And I know, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, or I should say it would have been, this was the first race back. So it would have been, what was the last race before the break?
Texas.
I think it was at Texas. I heard you say that the sim information didn't translate to the real-time on-track data, or the way the car was reacting on the track compared to it on the sim. How do you prepare for that? The differences in between the two, or can't you? Is it just like you get to the track and you have to, just figure it out and go from there? Or is it, something that you guys are able to dial in more at the sim to make it translate better at the track?
I think that's kind of like a two-part answer you're about to get, because I think some of the differences between real world and sim have been my experience too, of not having the sim before, right? And then when you get to the track, it's different. But also you can like at Texas, for example, we were tight all day. We were tight on the sim, but there was a little bit of looseness at the sim that we never really seen at Texas. But after coming back and figuring out some more stuff, we think we knew why we were tight, and it all just boiled down to a bad set of tires that we have no control on, right? So, but let's say you go and you're tight all day and you go back to the sim and you do a post-race sim session. You can try to figure out why it was tight, or you can put in real world air pressures and changes, and you can see if there's something there too. And I would say we've run what, 12 races, 13 races, whatever it is. I would say 9 of those, the sim has been pretty close to real world, but we don't do the speedways on the sim because there's no point.
Yeah, I can
No, yeah, I
remember.
mean it's like a crapshoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember walking into Clements Racing and watching Seltzer having the lead hooked up to the car on the hoist all the way in the back and getting spring rate off the computer in front of it. And that was the way he was testing springs. He was, and setting everything up. And I kind of looked and I'm like, that's how my dad used to do it back in like the 80s and 90s. When you're pretty much just on a modified alignment machine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's got to be cool to be able to build in stuff without, I don't want to say like guesstimating of what it's going to do, but that now does that put more pressure on you because you're got the same equipment that say the 1.7, all those guys are running? I mean, does that put more on your shoulders to know that, hey, I've got to get out there and give Jeremy the best car I possibly can?
Equipment is a very broad word to
Okay.
say we have the same, because we have the same engines and we do
Okay.
lease transmissions and gears, but their upper control arms are brand new and get mileaged out after 2 or 3 races.
Okay.
I'm running on way older stuff, right? And
All
their
right.
chassis are 2 or 3 years old, where my chassis are coming up on their 10-year anniversary or 10-year birthday this year. So, I mean, at some places, I would say, yeah, uh, it does put a little bit more pressure because, you do have the motor, you do want to perform, you do have the sim, so you do want to be better. And I probably put more pressure on myself than anything. Uh, but at the end of the day, I just have to remember we're still little race team fighting multi-million-dollar guys. And some like runs like Texas and part of the run at Charlotte where we were running ninth is, you just got to drop back for a second and look. Like, that's pretty impressive that this 10-year-old Ganassi car is outrunning that brand new Stuart Haas car, or
Yeah,
Haas, excuse me.
I remember we were talking before the game on Wednesday, and we were talking about the Texas car, and you're like, yeah, we're pretty much gonna saw the ass end off of it, send it to the fab shop, get it rebuilt, and hopefully have it back in the shop within 10 months or 2 months, so I can run it again. So you've
Mm-hmm.
got a 10-year-old car with a brand new tail on it, and just kind of repeat, 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 and I think a lot of the fans on, that would just watch the race don't realize how much abuse these cars take, or they think it's just like the NFL where if you get a jersey ripped, well, they give you a brand new jersey. These
Mm-hmm.
aren't brand new cars every single week that
Nah.
you and Jeremy are bringing to the track. You smack the wall, they get fixed.
Mm-hmm. And it's even getting to the point to where some of the bigger teams in our series, where they would used to run 3 races and they would front clip their car, put a new clip on it. Now they're having to run chassis longer and longer because where the cup cars are running a completely different chassis, there's less and less parts, less and less availability. So they're starting to even see some of the struggles. But you'll have teams that are, like I just said, Haas building a brand new car, which, more power to them. I'd love to do it too. And you're still trying to race against that every week. It's just kind of hard.
And
Is there
and
anybody that builds actual chassis, or is it the teams that build them themselves? I mean, it's not like NASCAR has like one like company that builds chassis for all the teams, or is it that way? I guess
So
I was just curious how that works.
your bigger teams are building their own chassis, which it's still a COT chassis from 2011. So the hard points still have to be the same. But, where you mount your upper control arms and your lower control arms and stuff like that varies. So like the RCRs, the Gibbs, and them guys, they're building their own chassis. And then there are some independent chassis builders. Like there's a gentleman named Cuz in Mooresville. He'll build a front clip for you. You can build your own if you really want to get after it like that. Like our body guy, Cecil Tipton, he has some Ganassi stuff. So whenever we have trouble, he's the one putting our clip on our car. He can help build it, but it's your bigger guys, they've figured out what they need to run and what makes their cars go fast. So they're hammering out chassis.
That was the other thing I was going to say. I'm assuming this Cecil has a jig so
Yep.
that the car can go because I was wondering how that would work with that old chassis to get a front or rear clip put on the car. If you didn't have a jig, you'd be like really shit out of luck, I guess you could say.
Oh yeah. Yeah, if you don't have a jig, you might as well just not even do it because it'll be way off. Because all these, like even our car that got wrecked, once it gets the rear clip on it, it's got to go to NASCAR to get certified because it's a new rear clip. They've got to make sure all the points are back where it needs to be.
Talking about that, I know that you were posting on Facebook. Did that gain a lot of traction?
I feel like it has. I feel like it's brought a lot of eyeballs to Jeremy Clemens Racing, and my wife's yelling at me over there. Sorry. Um, and I feel like it's brought a lot of notoriety to us, and hopefully it brought some people to our sponsors. And I mean, I didn't do it for that reason or for any sort of clout or whatever. I did it because I don't know if really people from a race team like ourselves has ever posted how long it takes for us to get a chassis or how long it takes for stuff like that to happen. So I just wanted the fans of JCR just to see what goes on with us because they see all the social media stuff and how we run every week and all that, but they don't really see the behind the scenes or in the shop type stuff, you know?
I know I greatly appreciate it. I mean, it was really cool to see that, and I was sharing with my fiance some of the stuff, and she's like, "Well, I didn't know that." I was like, "Neither did I."
Yeah. I wish I had an update for you guys, but right now it's at Cecil's. It's getting worked on. As soon as I get it back, I'll have another picture of it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was genius that you did that because it gives the fans perspective and look behind the scenes of something that these bigger teams aren't sharing. And it gives that more personal, look at the sport from a perspective of a member of a race team that works on a car, and this is what they go through, and this is what you have to do when that type of a crash happens. All the stuff that you have to remove from the car and everything, it just, lets a lot of people know, like, holy shit, they really have a lot of work they had to do just to get that car ready to get a new rear clip put on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoyed that you shared that, and I think that was a great thing. I wish more teams would do that, especially to help educate the fans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of people share when they're doing great, and when things never go wrong. Like I watch, it's a TikToker named Jay, and he does Mustangs. Well, he shares like the downfalls of, this is stuff that breaks from, quarter mile to quarter mile to quarter mile. They run, like I guess you would call them like door slammers or, street cars, very, very, very loosely street cars. But, but he actually shows the dynamics of, wow, we had to replace an engine after two passes. This went wrong, and this is why it went wrong, because a lot of people will just show you, man, I just ran a 7 1/4 and a, 15 Mustang, with a 5.0 in it, blown 2,000 horsepower, but it doesn't show how they got there and how many engines failed before they were able to run a 7, in a quarter mile. So I find that interesting, and that's why I kind of watch him more than other guys. Is he shows the failures and what it actually takes to get as fast as the other guys.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to go out there every single time and not blow a head gasket. You're not going to go out there and not rattle the tires off of it. It's just, sometimes it's, you know, like for instance, track temp, it changed here huge in Charlotte here. Like we were talking about before the race, before the show, it went from 90 degrees to almost in the 70s. I can only imagine what goes through your head when you're practicing in the 80s, qualifying in the 90s, and then it's mid 70s to start the race off.
Yeah, you make all these adjustments for a hot, slick racetrack, and then you lose 20 to 30 degrees of track temperature. So it's like, oh crap, now the car is going to be really tight and all this other stuff, and it's hard to manage. And you sometimes you can't control it. You literally just can't control the weather. She's going to do whatever she wants.
One thing I
Alright,
was
so-
going to ask, it was one race. It might have been Texas, actually. I can't remember, but you had practiced, and it was ended up being a shock in a spring that ended up. You guys discussed that you should have, the car would have handled better if you were able to change it. So I'm assuming once you go through tech, you're not able to change like a shock or spring.
No, on a normal weekend, which what I call the 25-minute weekends,
Yeah.
once you pass tech, you're technically impounded the rest of the weekend, whether you practice or not. Say hey to my dog. He's being crazy.
Hello. Mine's
But-
sleeping down here.
Once you pass, you can't change anything setup related because that would be considered an advantage or whatever. And you are put in a box. So when we're on pit road and we're doing our 25-minute practice, you can only change tire pressures, tape, front packers, rear wedge bolts, track bar, only on the right side, no left side track bar. So once you set it at the shop, you're stuck with that track bar all weekend. And you can do spring rubbers in between practice and qualifying, but I wouldn't do that. And that's it. That's all you can change. So that's, back to the other conversation of the sim. That's where the sim becomes important because you can test all that stuff. But then even when you get to the track, sometimes it's like, man, I should have brought this or I should have done that. And you just put it in a notebook for next time.
So I'm getting asked by numerous people. They want to know how Gabe's doing.
He's okay. His ankle hurts pretty bad. So him and his friends, they always hang out when they get back in town, and they were doing like a big slip and slide competition on Sunday before the Indy 500 and all that, and he had to back out of it and go on IR because of his ankle's pretty messed up from getting rolled over. His elbow has a bruise on it from getting hit with a lug nut during the race. And he's having a rough go. He kept making this joke that he was the only one on the team that hadn't gotten hurt the past couple of weeks because our engineer ripped his bicep off at Talladega, and then I broke my thumb going to Texas. So he was making fun of us. Well, now hopefully he's laid up in the bed resting.
So he said, I'm fine. I'm required to wear a full body cast.
I
No,
think you need to get him a bubble wrap race suit.
Oh gosh.
Bubble boy.
Then he would get launched across the infield when Jeremy runs into him again.
Yeah. So what happened with that? It was, did he back into him or
No,
was he
so
pulled into the box?
we pull in and you got to pull in at an angle and then you back into your pit stall.
Yeah.
And Gabe always stands on the left front and helps Jeremy back up. Like, so Jeremy will put it in reverse and then, Gabe directs him in. And I missed it the very first part of it, but I saw his helmet rolling across pit road. But Jeremy put it in reverse and it was actually first gear and let the clutch out and just ran right into him.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then he tried to put it in reverse again. He did it a second time. So Gabe technically got hit twice.
Oh no.
Yeah. And then he finally got it.
So that's how he hurt his ankle was.
Yep.
Oh man. And then the getting hit by the lug nut thing, add insult to injury. Was it when Chris Wright's car came down pit road?
I don't remember who it was. It was later in the race. We didn't pit. not a lot of cars pit, and somebody was coming up and a lug nut, I guess, got wedged under the splitter perfectly and shot out and hit him right in the elbow. And he fell off the wall. I thought he was having something major happen at
Yeah.
first, and then he kept talking. So then we all started laughing. And
Well, I
then,
heard you tell Jeremy under caution, you want to hear something funny, and then you tell the story, and I'm like, oh my God, because I
yeah,
knew he got hit earlier, and then this happens, and I'm like, oh my God, this is not good.
yeah, poor guy got beat up all weekend.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Gabe
he
said
gets
his
better.
ankle rolled under the splitter, and he said it was Austin Dillon.
Oh, it was
Oh,
Austin Dillon. So I was watching the race, and I thought it was Chris Wright that was coming down, and I was just going to say, he's lucky he just got hit by a lug nut and not Chris Wright running into him. So,
yeah.
yeah, I'm glad he's okay. I mean, other than a bum ankle, that could have been a lot worse. So,
I mean, he worked today, so he's okay.
well, that's a good thing.
And now I'm kind of a nuts and bolts type of geek, so I always ask the questions. Obviously watching the broadcast, and then Rob usually hits us up with what you guys are talking about on the scanner. It seems like a lot of the teams lately are running tight, like even in the truck series. Um, is it easier to fix a tight car, or is it easier to fix a loose car? Like, do you bring them in a little looser, or do you bring them in a little tighter? What's easier for you?
I have found that Jeremy can drive, in my opinion, a tighter race car better than a looser race car. So I always err on the side of tight because you can drive through tight if you have to, but a loose car, you're out of the gas, so you're losing momentum. And I like the tight cars better because it's a little bit more secure on entry and all the way around.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's just one thing that, I guess you hear those sight words or keywords that the, NBC or Fox guys are now, prime guys. Oh, he's real tight into going into, 3 and 4. And, this past weekend with the bumps over in 3 and 4, which, you know, I gotta say, watching Denny Hamlin's head bounce back and forth for, 600 miles, would have just absolutely put me in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, uh, I most people don't have the privilege that like me and Rob and Bobby went, or yourself, how hard the tracks are and how abrasive the tracks are. Yeah, everybody thinks that they're absolutely smooth, like a perfectly paved interstate.
Mm-hmm.
So is that built into the Sims as well? Like, um, what the track conditions are like, the bumps, say even the seals and stuff like that they put on there. Is that always a factor into the way you're setting up a car?
Oh yeah, so as long as it's on there whenever they do their last track scan, it'll have the sealer and the track, it has the character, and then they can go in and change the temperature and that changes like the grip levels and all that stuff. So as long as it's there and they come scan it, it'll be on there. And I don't know how often they scan it, but I know they do scan them often so that way they can keep up to date. Because if you have one that hasn't been scanned for 4 or 5 years and it goes and gets paved or something, then you'll be out to lunch. And like Rockingham, we ended up getting Rockingham's new scan probably in February or so, whenever they were able to go do it. So like the first couple of sim sessions over the off season weren't the new track, and then once they got it scanned, everybody was on it and it had all the grip in the world.
So that's I can't wait for Nashville this weekend. I absolutely adore that track since it's been back on the schedule.
Oh yeah, it's a fun place. I'm excited to go there and it not be 100 million degrees because I feel like it's always been hot every time we went, and the infield's full of pavement. Like there's no breakup in the heat. But this weekend's supposed to be pretty nice, so it should be a good little. And there should be a lot of grip on that concrete. with it not being a million degrees.
So I know I've been thinking about this, and if I want to break it up, but how do you feel about not racing North Wilkesboro?
I think it's a shame because we are probably the best platform race car there is with a good mix of downforce and side force and horsepower compared to the other two series, and I guess three series because ARCA. And I feel like I really wish we would have went there on the old pavement because that would have been a very fun race, and it would have really brought the driver back into it, in my opinion, like the Jeremy Clemens, the Allgaiers, those type guys would have really excelled. And even now, I think we would probably run three grooves there, but we really need to go back, in my opinion. And when I say
Amen.
yeah,
I
Are you
agree
looking forward to going to
100%.
Mexico?
Mexico, it's a racetrack, and we're going to it.
That seems to
can
be
we-
the same thing everybody that we interview says. We're not excited about going, but we got to go. We'll be there. Let's see how it pans out.
Yep, it's a racetrack, and we'll be there. And
It's
I
got to
am
cost a shitload of money to get there.
Can we
I
go back to Michigan?
I would rather go to Michigan all day. I'd rather go to Michigan with all the horsepower.
Give
We-
me 750.
Give me all the horsepower, no speedway stuff, no speedway splitter. Just let us go rip.
So I was
Yeah.
talking to somebody today, and they said, "Hey, let's go to Michigan because it's that close to my house." And I'm like, "All right, well, ARCA races on Friday, trucks race Saturday, and then the Cups on Sunday." And he goes, "What about Xfinity?" I said, "They're off that week. They go to Mexico the next week." And he said, "Well, that's stupid. I ain't going then." I mean,
Yeah.
this is what I'm talking about. Xfinity is the best race.
It's a shame because whether we run the speedway motor there or the full downforce package, Xfinity puts on a great show at that racetrack.
Every
Just
year.
like, this is personal opinion. Auto Club should have never got rid of it.
Yeah, do you
Yeah,
like
that-
the old? How do you feel about like Chicagoland coming back?
I'm okay with Chicagoland because I feel like that racetrack had a lot of character and multi-groove, and it was a little bit different with the backstretch not being perfectly straight. And, personally, I always ran pretty good there, so I'd like to go back.
I
Yeah,
wish they'd bring back Kentucky.
Kentucky, too. Let Kentucky get a little bit more character. When they paved it, it kind of lost a little bit to me, but Kentucky's a pretty fun racetrack. I've done a lot of testing there in ARCA, so I like it a lot.
Yeah,
how do
Auto
you-
Club, it's weird that they tore it up and now they're like, well, we're gonna make it a short track, but then they're like, well, it's gonna cost X amount of dollars. So now it's like they're in limbo. And I'm like, a typical NASCAR decision. And I don't know, I guess RC Jeremy Spotter, I think it was during the Texas race, he was saying that the rumor was that they were gonna make Texas a super speedway, and was it Kansas? I think it was like Atlanta, and then they were gonna possibly go to San Diego for a street race, and that they were bringing Chicagoland back, and there was one other track to Vegas. They were gonna make into like Atlanta, like a super speedway, and I'm like, I don't know why. They did this, tear up Auto Club and aren't finishing it. And now they have the plans to do all this stuff. It's like, just leave some of this stuff alone. And, I don't know. Just my opinion. I just, when I heard him say that, I'm like, oh no.
See, I have the same feeling when, Michigan got redone and we got, 200 mile an hour, going around that because it used to be a absolute fuel save race. You almost went there and you were like, all right, let's enjoy the first. At that time there was no stages, but enjoy the first two stages of actual racing, and then the third they're going to run 3/4 throttle, around the outside until about 25 to go, and then they'll let them eat.
Mhm.
But yeah, they always refer to Atlanta now. They're like, oh yeah, we're gonna get a Atlanta treatment, and I'm like, that's like getting a Kardashian. Yeah, it might be great for a little while, but when you get too much of one thing, then it becomes tame. It becomes mediocre. It's the same thing every single week. We tried that with the Roval, and that lost all momentum. And now they're saying, all right, well, now we're going to bring down Charlotte back to the Oval in the possible championship, since it's going to rotate now. Which, God, I would love to have the championship race here in Charlotte, but making an oval again. But they were talking about, oh well, it'll get watered down. That's kind of why they took Michigan down to one race. And I'm like, yeah, Charlotte's kind of a different animal. It's a destination.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's the
Charlotte's
home
got
of NASCAR. I mean, that's where all the teams are and stuff. It's makes sense to try to bring a championship race to that track. I mean, I don't know. And the racing's good there.
Look at the race the Cup guys put on. Like, that was probably the best 600 we've had in a very long time.
Yeah. Now, I gotta ask, where did you come up with your nicknames for Jeremy? Because they are freaking hilarious. You're setting up, we're listening to the scanner, and Rob and I are talking, and next thing you know, we hear Jer Bear, we hear, I don't even know what the hell the other one was you said.
Boo Boo was this week.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I don't know. Probably a lot of brain rot, watching memes when I get downtime, or I help coach baseball and softball. So I mean, all these kids and their new lingo. I mean, and then I don't know, it just comes out of nowhere, I guess. I don't really have a good answer for you. I just make it up.
How's he feel about these nicknames?
He's never told me not to call him something, so I guess it's okay. I know his mother loves it when I call him Jer Bear.
Hey, Dave, what was that? His sister was telling us that when he was a kid, he used to
he was
not drug, but
he was the heartbreak kid.
Heartbreak Kid.
Yep, he was Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
I was joking. I think it was last week when we had everybody on, that his walk out to the mound should have been the HBK background music. I'm just a sexy boy, sexy boy. Oh, I'd have absolutely lost my shit.
Oh yeah, he probably would have too.
Oh, I think so too. But I did get some cool pictures and shared with the guys. Having Kenny out there and everything before the pitch, and that was a really good time. I hope somebody that's watching now got to see all that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, watching it on MILB, they covered a lot of it. I mean, we got to see Mark Nelson. We got to see Jeremy and Courtney in a bun. That was freaking hilarious. Like, I don't, where they were,
So
They did the
bun,
hamburger
and then they had
relay
to
or
do
whatever.
the lettuce and tomato and all that, and then at the very end, you see Jeremy plop. Did you see that case?
Oh yeah, we were over there in that Dr. Pepper section in right field, and we watched it all from over there.
So you're saying you help with baseball and softball, and you couldn't help him get it across the plate by any stretch of the imagination?
I'm sure Gabe is typing right now. We went out to the parking lot one day, and I have baseballs everywhere, and I had a couple baseballs in my toolbox, and we had him throwing, and I mapped out the distance from the mound to home plate because he said he wanted to throw off the mound. And first one, we were like, all right, just see if you can get it to Gabe. He throws it about 20 feet over his head. Go and get it, bring it back. All right, this time try getting it to Gabe. This time he throws it and hits the ground, and Gabe has to jump out of the way. So, I mean, we tried. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe it was the
And-
pressure
And
of the
that's what Gabe
situation.
just typed. We tried.
There you go.
I mean, the guy's a professional race car driver with balls of steel going into a corner blind at 200 miles an hour. I wouldn't think throwing a baseball in front of a couple hundred fans would put him under pressure. But hey, different strokes for different folks, I guess.
I don't know. It was probably Courtney. She probably told him don't embarrass her.
Oh man. So how do you, when I obviously listen to the scanner, like I said, how do you stay so calm? It sounds like you're so calm and like just easygoing during a race that when you're doing your calls, I mean, it's obviously you're under a lot of pressure, but you're like rattling off all these changes. You're telling guys how to turn, which direction to turn the shock to adjust it, take, which adjustment for wedge and all kinds of stuff. And you're just real calm and you're telling everybody how to do that. How are you able to remain that calm under that much pressure?
Ah, you just have to. I
Right.
don't know any other way around it. I mean, when I was younger and learned how to do this, I was a little bit more eccentric and excited on the radios, and you know, I hate to say it, yelled at pit crews, and was that type. And it was actually Johnny Davis that put his arm around me one time at Daytona and said, "Listen," he said, of all people, he told me this, but that man taught me a lot. But he pretty much told me, he's like, you got to figure out how to be calm because everybody's looking at you. Everybody's basing off your energy. And he's like, if you're negative in any sort of way to the driver or to the crew, they're not going to work as hard for you. And that kind of stuck with me for a long time. So, like now, if we're having a bad weekend, like Coda, it was not a good weekend. We had a part failure and whatever, right? If I let it get me down on the radio, it's going to put Jeremy down even worse, in my opinion, or any driver of that nature. So, I mean, it's probably how I deal with the anxiety of all the pressure that's on me is just trying to stay calm so everybody else can be calm as well and do their job. And I don't know, I tell people all the time, you just have to. You just have to be calm because you're the quote unquote leader at that time, right? And everything's looking back at you, so you just be calm and make it happen. I don't know if that's really like the answer you were wanting, but it's just kind of how I feel about it.
So
Yeah, it's kind of like, act like you've been there before, type of mentality. Hey, it's not a huge ordeal. This is how we're gonna go about it. You know, everything's under control. We got this. Kind of like you watch, NFL guys. Bill Belichick got fired up when he needed to be fired up. Not, he let his team perform, not himself. He prepared everybody for what, or not for, but when this happens, this is what we got to do.
Hmm. I mean, if you're having a bad week or the situation's bad, why be negative on top of it, right?
Right.
Why not try to find some kind of positivity and get out of there? And Jeremy's really good at it on the radio. I know he gets tuned up a little bit, but these experienced guys like him and Brennan Poole and Landon Castle and Jeffrey Earnhardt, those guys that have been around for a while and they don't get to drive the best race cars out there. They just make it happen. And you kind of base your energy off of them too. Cause I've worked with some younger guys and they get mad if the car's not handling the way it's supposed to or whatever. And they yell and scream on the radio. So, I mean, you can't have two of those. One person's going to do it. You can only have one. Right. So, but I guess where I was going with that is it's nice to have somebody like Jeremy too, who, yeah, he gets a little animated when a certain somebody runs into us every once in a while. Their numbers might have a 7 and a 2 in it, but the other thing is you just gotta stay calm for that fact, so he can stay calm too, because he doesn't if he gets tuned up, if I get tuned up, we're done at that point. So you just gotta stay calm, I guess. I don't know.
And I hate to be the only one talking here, but if you got a couple tracks circled um towards the end of the season here, what do we got to watch for?
Uh, so I'm really fond of speedway racing just because I've found some stuff that makes our cars go pretty fast, and it's easier to get wins there, right? Um, but I really am excited to go to Kansas later in the year. I had a really good car there last year with Brad Perez, and that race got taken away from me on an oil pump belt that shredded. And we were probably going to run top 15 with his first time there. So that track owes me one. And I think our mile and a half program has proved that it's pretty good over here at JCR. Um, I think when we go to, oh, sorry, my Siri's being crazy. I think when we go to Martinsville later this year, knowing what I can do to make that car turn better, I think it's going to be another one. Darlington's always a favorite track for me. Uh, Phoenix, meh. I'd be okay if we just stop 1 week early.
So
What
not a
about
fan of the
Nashville next
dog
week?
leg.
No.
What about Nashville coming up?
Nashville, I'm pretty excited for. Like I said earlier, to go and it not be a million degrees. I like how it's got character to it and it's all concrete. I think that's going to be a pretty fun one. I think we have a chance to run well again, or at least run where we've been running, because it's one of those really tricky places that you have to know how to get around. And I think Jeremy can make up a lot there on some inexperienced guys. And then I guess going back on top of that, I can't wait to get to Dover too. I really like Dover.
Yeah, we definitely know he can run well at Martinsville, even in a half a car. So if we can just put tires on him, he should be good to go.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've got the driver side rear, which is pretty much the only part without a scratch or a dent on it. The whole front clip was cut off of it. But in my years of watching Jeremy and just seeing ragged cars run around, that was probably the funnest race I think I've seen in years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Case, I know you're very busy. I don't want to hold you up. Good luck this upcoming week and then throughout the whole season. And we look forward to seeing you in September.
All right, man. I appreciate you guys having us on, and hopefully I was able to shed some light to some things and fans, and hopefully a lot more people will follow along and enjoy this ride with us.
Absolutely. And you're welcome here anytime.
All right, have me on. I'll be more than happy to do it as long as I can be here.
All right. Sounds good.
Whenever
Thank you,
Gabe
Capes. I
has his
appreciate it.
special, I'm gonna jump in.
All right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was just gonna say, jump in with Gabe so we can hear some more cool stories from behind the scenes.
I don't know if you guys are ready for that.
Believe us, we're ready.
I heard the wife laugh in the background. That can't be a good sign.
Oh yeah, old Gabe and I have known each other for a long time, so it'll be an exciting one.
Parental advisory.
Yes, with that guy.
Oh man.
All right, Case. We appreciate you.
All right, thanks guys. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thanks. Take care. Good luck the rest of the season.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody. That was Case.
Yeah, and I apologize to both you guys when I get on a roll and start
Nope.
talking nuts and
Nope, you're
bolts and
good.
stuff like that.
You're 100% okay because Rob's having internet issues and I'm struggling to talk because I think I'm still getting over this cold.
Right.
So I had to walk away one time because I was like, dude, I can't breathe.
I can talk about wedge and track bar adjustments, all day long and being loose and tight and what it'll take and what it'll do. I get carried away and all of a sudden I got a Rob moment where I'm rambling for 10 minutes about the great state of Wisconsin.
That maybe you guys have like a certain button that when you know I'm going to get ready to go off on a tangent, you guys push the button and it kicks my internet out. Maybe it's you two that is doing it.
Dude,
And
that's a good idea. I didn't even know that was an option.
Oh my God, it's Kurt the Platypus.
Hey, wonder if this works. Hold on, let me try something.
Oh, I'm sure it does.
Oh, it does.
No, where did Rob go? Oh, his internet must have went out again.
I didn't know, dude. That's
Yeah,
actually funny. I can kick you out.
I know you can. It works. So maybe I know it's not you doing it because it keeps popping up on here saying internet is unstable, and then literally I watch the bars on the bottom right of my computer screen go from full to 0 for some reason. I have no idea why. So the only thing I can think of is our router is in our kitchen, which is on the opposite side of the house, and I'm on the far other side of the house. So I'm gonna have to get some type of internet booster or something, or get my son and his buddy, they're computer and tech savvy, to hook me up so it doesn't stops happening. So
Since I'm under the weather a little bit, I'm gonna let Rob finish out the show with doing all the reminders and the podcast, thanking our sponsors and all that. But before we do that, I would like to, because I'm gonna lose my voice if I keep talking. But I'm gonna share these pictures with you guys. These are the pictures that Mark Nelson shared with us and told us to share on the podcast. So I'm just gonna kind of scroll through them and let you guys take a look at them. Rob, if you would like to say anything during this, you can, or Dave.
I was just gonna say that, that the whole event that they had planned, from the RJ Rockers to the ballpark, everything at the ballpark to the race day with the Spartanburger theme and Fox Sports and Spartan Waste. It was just a really cool event, and just the Spartanburg area in general.
Hey Rob, look at this. Look at this right here.
What the heck?
Is that a big hole, or is that just the paint scheme that came off?
No,
that's
it looks like
hole.
the valance next to where the jack goes is broke off.
I just noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in that picture too.
I mean, he hit the wall twice during the race. Which that was one thing I was going to ask Gabe, or tell him that him and RC did an amazing job on Saturday, because for the first 2 segments of the race, Jeremy had no radio because his push to talk button was broke. So they were telling him to do different things with his car to let him know if it was tight, loose, what they needed to do, and all kinds of stuff. They were pretty creative.
I did not know this until I looked at this picture over and over and over again, but that's Austin Dillon.
Yeah, he's in the boot barn.
Number 3.
Number 3, yeah.
I didn't know that. I was scrolling through these, and I'm like, did not know that.
I think I read that he signed with Boot Barn to do like 3 total Xfinity races. I could be wrong. I think it was 3. So he's going to do a couple more this year.
There's the guys from last week.
The Motley Crew, the great group of guys that are the number one guest of our podcast.
Yeah, we can't thank those guys enough. They've been more than kind and generous to what we do on the podcast, and helping us feel like we're part of JCR.
Absolutely. Here's another picture.
100%.
I really like this picture.
Yeah, that's cool.
And just in case if anybody doesn't know, that is the steering wheel that they just use to move the car around. That's in the by the driver's side front tire. It's just bigger, it's sturdier, and you don't have to turn it as many times to get the vehicle to where it needs to go.
The one that Tate's foot's on.
Yeah,
Right here.
yeah.
Oh, Matt, man. Who's that guy?
I don't have any idea who that guy is, or man, his shoe game is on point.
Ray
Yeah.
Stevens, baller, bro. I mean, he's killing it.
Speaking of Ray, I don't know if you guys saw his current video of his like flower beds or whatever by his house that he's doing, or he did. It looks amazing.
It does.
Yeah, I
Dude,
didn't.
okay, if
It
I
was
share
pretty
some of
cool
your
that
pictures-
he's like, yeah, I'm a big, I'm into these different plants and stuff, and he did an amazing job. It was really cool looking.
And the guy's got more on his plate than you could ever imagine.
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
Yeah.
I have no
Between
idea.
cheerleading and getting to the races, you
Yeah.
know, he said it took him, I think his post said like 3 or 4 weeks to
Yeah.
do it. And I completely understand that, you know,
Oh,
paving
100%.
stones, you know, for him, you know, I could see how, you know, a 2 weekend project would take him, you know, a month and a half. But like you said, it does look awesome.
Right.
Yeah, it is really, really cool looking.
Now, if
Now,
I lose you guys, we're in a hell of a storm here. So
okay.
Uh-oh.
So I gotta ask one question. Who's this guy?
and look at that handsome son of a bitch. That's and I can't tell who's who there.
Do you want me to zoom in?
No, you don't need to zoom in. No.
Yeah, I think you should zoom in.
And look at that fella.
It's is that a? Oh, there he is.
Man,
We know who that is.
You in
Who's that?
case.
oh my gosh.
There he is again.
Damn. I almost look like Bobby in the sunglasses. You know, straight up GQ, you know,
No.
Playboy myself.
No.
I think that's the first
Yeah,
time we've seen pictures of Dave in the wild.
All right. You want me to send you some of me going to the zoo with Stacy and Kai and Hunter? I got
Hey,
spit on.
absolutely. Why not?
I got spit on by a llama. You know, that's how much I'm hated in the wildlife. You know, they're like,
What?
get back in your damn house. You don't belong here. You know, but I tell you what, when I talk about, you know, and I kid with you guys all the time. I live in a forest. You know, I'm completely surrounded by trees, but I am scared to death of everything that lives in the trees. So I don't go in there as long as they don't come into my backyard. But you talk about, you know, checking off just absolute unlocking skills. I petted a capybara. I mean, yeah, the world's
Wow.
largest rodent.
Yeah.
Her name was Capybara, and you know, we were just straight up chilling. You know, so I mean, it was amazing. What was it? You know, we got to meet some cows, which was Stacy's favorite. What are those fancy ass cows, Rob?
The
Ones
Highland
with, like,
cows?
yeah, the Highland cows.
Oh,
You know, those were absolutely amazing. Touched a crocodile for the love of God. You know, you're talking to a guy that I scream. We have a chipmunk that lives in my shop, and I hate the damn thing because it's like sneaky, you know, just sneaky. I mean, you never know where it is, but you know, to pet livestock is not my thing.
Sorry, when you said you got spit on by a llama, I instantly thought of
Oh,
something
yeah.
and I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
say it, so
Oh, the llama was thinking it. Fucking spit on Dave. But that was a great way for them to sell merchandise because you know we were going to Wings Etc. right afterwards. Well, I can't go in there with fucking llama spit on me. You know, so they sold a shirt. You know, they know what's gonna happen. I should start a petition, make that thing wear a spit mask.
that reminds me, when I was a kid at the
Oh.
Milwaukee Zoo, and they, instead of having the glass, they had like metal bars along the outside of the lion cage, and one of the lions, a lady was standing there with her kids and her family, and one of the lions ended up peeing on her through the fence. And we were all just standing there like, did that just happen?
Yeah, some people pay extra for that.
Apparently, but I was like, wow, that was crazy. I was like, yeah, that's why I try to stay away from the zoos because for that reason. Plus, I'm not a fan of snakes and stuff, and
There was no snakes. I mean, I chilled with a tortoise for probably about 15, 20 minutes. We were having that kind of, chill zone while there's
yeah,
I think it was either a wallaby or a kangaroo was, chilling out about 10 minutes, about 10 feet away, but I was side eyeing it like, you move, I move,
yeah, you're gonna square up with me,
Right.
or
No, that was not on my list at all. I've seen the pictures of the koalas with the 12 packs, and I'm like, nope. Yeah, I'll they should be like, oh, 100 men, one kangaroo. No, not happening. No. But yeah, that was my weekend. If you guys are ever in the Shelby area, even though eating over at Wings, etc., about 10 miles down the road's Circle M Ranch. Not a plug for them, but a hell of a time for the family. And they're real cool. The people there are real nice. Just had a real good time.
Sounds like we
well,
have it. We all are gonna go down to the ranch.
that's what I was
Yeah.
just gonna say. I guess in
And the thing
September
is,
we're making a trip to the ranch,
right?
and we're gonna make sure
and-
that llama doesn't do that again.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it was a hate crime, but you know.
All right. So, you guys got anything else? I'm gonna try to run through this because I am losing my voice.
All right, go at it.
All right. So remember, if you have not done so, go to check out stickygears.com and purchase one of Area 51 Racing Podcast t-shirts for just $15. A portion of that money goes directly to JCR to keep Jeremy on the track. Also, check out Anna Moore Designs for any Area 51 merchandise, tumblers, hats, shirts, sweatshirts, um, journals, whatever you can think about, flags. The flag behind Rob, the big one she made. Remember the big stickers are $8. The little stickers are $4. I actually am down to I think 20 of the big ones and 10 of the small ones. Gale Beard Product is a partner of Area 51 Racing Podcast. Their products are they are the official beard product of Area 51 Racing Podcast. Sorry. Use code Area 51 and get 15% off and free shipping when you check out. Remember, guys, make them say it. Gale.
Golly.
Check out the Racing Warehouse for Jeremy Clements hats, pit road banners,
Rugs.
rugs, whatever you can think of.
Yep, I think
Matter
they
of fact,
just got the Kevin Whitaker throwback side of
Yeah, yep.
the amp car. Those
Yeah.
are pretty sweet.
The
I think I saw one on there. It was like $1.25, for the rear quarter panel.
Yeah, there's a couple of a couple of the banners are getting ready to fall off, in 10 minutes. So I'm gonna hop over there after we get off and check on that. For any of your diecast needs, please go check out Circle B Diecast. They are the official diecast company of Area 51 Racing Podcast. Enter the discount code Area 51 for $6 off shipping. And since I have a second, real quick, I want to share this. Rob and Dave seen it, and it's probably one of the coolest pieces that I have. But guys, make sure you go get your diecast from Circle B Diecast. I mean, $6 off shipping off this bad boy and any other car that you got. They posted the chrome ones this morning and they already sold out.
Yeah, we were teasing Bobby. I guess they've already got the baseball Dale Jr. uh on pre-sale for
Yes,
the
sir. Already
late
pre-ordered it.
models.
Now
I already
that car does look cool.
Yeah, I agree.
When they unveiled it, I was like, "Oh, that is really cool." Wasn't that his first?
that was the first win after Dale passed away, the
Yeah.
Pepsi 400.
That's what I thought. Yes.
That's the diecast that I am missing out of all the cars I have. I cannot find that car for anything under $300. So if I can ever get my hands on it, it would definitely go in the collection with the junior stuff. But right now I've got the Budweiser cars and his late model car collection. So that's what I'm gonna keep doing. And Dave, I'll read you a comment in the chat after we're done that somebody said, but I can't say it on the air.
Well, while you're on that, I do apologize for my language. When I get out on tangents like that, I kind of lose my filter. So for all the parents out there, and I apologize to Hunter. I know he's watching. You should not say naughty words. And I do apologize.
Well, we appreciate you, Dave.
But unfortunately, my color commentary,
It's the
is
best of all of us.
it gets the best of me most of the time.
So Rob froze, so I may have to do this. Check out Benzik Designs for the official display diecast display products of Area 51 Racing Podcast. The owner of Benzik Designs has an Etsy page. He has 124th, 118th, and 164th display stands. Make sure you guys check out his Etsy page and use the discount code Area51 for 20% off your order. He does have hanging ones, and he also has the ones that go in your cabinets or your shelves. Also, if you're interested in purchasing any of Kylie Glick's racing merchandise, please go to Kylie Glick Racing's Facebook page and click on the link for her new merchandise post. And Rob, I am officially kicking it over to you because I am officially lost my voice. It hurts.
All right, no problem. So thank you for joining Rob or Dave, Bobby, and I tonight. We hope you enjoyed our podcast. Remember, you can always watch our podcast live on YouTube, our YouTube channel, or listen to it at any time on Spotify. Just click on the Area 51 Racing Podcast logo on the Spotify app to listen. While you're there, if you like what you hear, please subscribe to our Spotify channel. And then also, if you would check out our podcast, excuse me, on our Facebook, X, and Instagram at Area 51 Racing Podcast, and then also our YouTube channel at Area 51 Racing Podcast. We'd also appreciate it if you'd like, subscribe, and then also share the podcast with your family, friends, anybody that likes racing. And on that note, I would like to thank all of you for listening tonight and joining in. Bobby, Dave, and I are not able to do this without any of our partners or listeners or viewers. So we greatly thank you all for tuning in and for the support. I'd like to thank our partners who make all this possible: Spartan Waste, Fox Sports Spartanburg, Harrison's, Action RV, Kylie Glick Racing, Matman Designs, The Runner's Roost.
I think he froze again. So Kylie Glick Racing, Matman Designs, The Runner's Roost, Alliance, Driveway Solutions, Anamore Designs, Circle B Diecast, Driven Sunglasses and Driven Trackside, Elite Towing and Recovery, High Speed Auto, Booze Pops, the Racing Warehouse and Armadillo Apparel, Belcher Cheesecake Creations, Fly Form Concrete Structures, First Pacific Funding, Surefit Companies, Gale Beard Products, Wings, etc., Dialed In Focus Pouches by Whitetail Smokeless, Benzik Designs, Johnson Bach Landscaping, Enigma Tattoo, Aero Parts Group, Jeremy Clements, and Jeremy Clements Racing. I am so sorry that my voice sounds like this. This is the worst it's been in 3 days. It's the allergies, I'm telling you. Adrian says I'm sick. I just think it's full-blown allergy season.
Well, I can also remember when I was 13, Bobby. You know,
Yeah,
it was rough.
You're funny. You're funny, brother.
So, do you need me to finish
No,
where you left off?
I went through them.
I am so sorry. I have no idea
You're
what's
good.
going on. It quite honestly is making me quite frustrated and mad. So
Somebody
I,
just
will
made
be
it. Somebody
calling
just
our-
tried to make a funny joke and blah
internet
blah blah.
provider tomorrow. So
He said I was 13.
who? Dave? Dave said you were 13.
Yeah, because my voice is in and out right now.
They haven't dropped yet.
Yeah, according to Dave. You guys are funny. Hopefully by next week I feel better.
Yeah, I hope so too.
The pollen has been really high. According to these guys, the grass pollen and tree pollen is probably the worst it's ever been. That out of a 10 scale, they're saying it's around a 12.
Oh gosh.
So it's terrible. When my black truck looks yellow, there's a problem.
Black and yellow.
Yeah, exactly. And it ain't black and yellow, it's more yellow.
Right.
So thank God all I have to do is rinse it off and the nice coat comes back looking pretty. But with that being said, y'all have a good night. I'm gonna run through the outro and then we'll see you guys next week. Everybody have a good night.